So, hello and welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to start the schools of Buddhism, the realism and the idealism debate. So, one of the most prominent schools of Buddhism was the Madhyamika Shunyavad. It is considered as a middle way between permanent self and nothingness propounded by Buddhism. So, as understood by non-Buddhist traditions, Shunyavad is nothing but a nihilistic school which denies all forms of existence and realities. Nihilism, in its literal sense, means rejecting all principles and saying that life has no real meaning, rejecting all the religious or moral principles. So, if it is understood in its literal sense, Shunyavad is nothing but a nihilistic thought which denies all forms of existence and realities. Madhavacharya in Sarvadarshan Sangra puts forward the argument in support for this non Buddhist view. The self, the object, and knowledge are mutually dependent. So, this is a prominent statement. The self, the knowledge, the object, these three are mutually dependent. The reality of one is dependent on each of the other. If one is false, the other becomes automatically false. So, these are all interdependent, and their reality, or for them to exist, they all have to exist in unison. When we perceive snake in a rope, the object perceived is absolutely false. This denies the possibility of determining the existence of object as well as the self. So they have given an example of the snake in a rope where the object is perceived absolutely false because what we have read earlier was that the self, the object, and the knowledge are all mutually dependent, like they are interdependent. And if the object is itself false, then the other, the knowledge, uh, and the self are both false. This denies the possibility of determining the existence of object as well as the self. Moreover, Shunyavadins extend some arguments to prove the invalidity of all the pramanas, including perception. So they have not accepted perception as the praman as well. So they have rejected the validity of all the pramanas, including the perception. Thus, by denying the possibility of knowledge as well as the existence of all mental and non-mental realities, they are being accused by non-Buddhist philosophical systems as self-condemned skeptics and nihilists. So they have been described as self-condemned skeptics and nihilists by the non-Buddhist philosophical systems because they are actually doubting if something is true or not. They are doubting the reality and the non-reality both. They are denying the possibility of knowledge as well as the existence of all mental and non-mental realities. And also they have denied all the uh, pramanas, which includes perception as well. So in this page, we are going to read it in more detail. So is Madhyamik Shunyavad nihilistic? So all what we have read earlier was basically the criticism of Shunyavad. So what exactly is Madhyamik Shunyavad? So Shunya is not in the literal sense used by the Buddhist scholars. Shunya in its literal meaning means negation or empty or void, but for the Buddhist it means indescribable. Shunyata is a kind of a relativity concept. Like they have described Shunyata as something which is relative to other. The concept of relativity is said to be Shunyata. The word Shunya in its literal sense means nothing or an empty void. Many philosophers have taken the literal meaning of Shunya and condemned it as hopeless skepticism and self-condemned nihilism. So this is the criticism which we have read earlier. But the word shunya has to be understood from two points of views, empirical and absolute. The word shunya has two different meanings. So it is both empirical and absolute. So a little context of this, the concept or the theory of Madhyamika came into prominence because of it being propounded by Nagarjuna, and he gave actually two kind of views or two kind of truths, which is the empirical or the conventional truth and the ultimate truth. So this line is in like this line is basically relates to that. This line basically relates to two truths of Nagarjuna propounded by him. From empirical point of view, it means swabhav shunya or devoid of swabhava, with which independent of substantial reality of its own. Everything is related to, contingent upon, conditioned by something else. So, what it means by devoid of swabhav is that something is devoid of its inherent existence, and it exists because of it being conditional and relative and conditioned by something else. So, it could not exist by itself only. Uh, just like a flame could not exist by itself, it needs cotton, wick, and light, and sorry, a cotton wick oil. So it could not exist on its own. So for one thing to exist, many causes are there. There are very many variables which need to be placed at the same time so that a thing could exist, as we've read in Patiti Samudpad. In other words, all empirical entities are devoid of independent selfhood, the inherent existence. In this sense, Pratyati Samutpad is related with Shunyata or relativity. So, Pratyati Samutpad is actually the base for Madhyamika because it provides that there is a theory of dependent origination and everything is related to another, and there's a cause and effect. So, in lines with that, all empirical entities are devoid of the independent selfhood and they exist because of the existence of the other things, other factors which are involved. From the point of view of absolute, it means prapanch shunya, that is devoid of prapanch or verbalization, thought construction, and plurality. So, swabhav shunya is devoid of the substantial reality of its own, and prapanch shunya is devoid of plurality, thought construction, and verbalization. Nagarjuna admitted two forms of reality. There are two truths on which Buddha's teachings are based, one being empirical for ordinary persons and the other transcendental. So he has accepted two kinds of truths. One is empirical or conventional and the other is transcendental or ultimate. Those persons who cannot distinguish between the two can never understand the subtle secrets of Buddha's teachings. So he has made it mandatory the distinction of those two truths should be known in order to understand Buddhist philosophy. The empirical truth is the only means by which transcendental truth can be attained. So empirical truth is a way to attain the transcendental truth, which will, in a way, lead to liberation. After all, because then only we can understand Buddha's teachings as a whole. Nagarjuna maintains that the latter cannot be attained without realizing the former, and without transcendental truth, nirvana cannot be attained. Therefore, Samvriti Satya is a means for attaining Paramartha Satya. Paramartha Satya is grasped as direct, intuitive insight into reality, as it is in itself, like devoid of any other things. It is the only thing which exists on itself. It has inherent existence. Buddha offered silence to avyaktanis because these questions transcend reason and sense experience. Any attempt to answer them in the empirical terms will detract human beings from the immediate task of overcoming sufferings. Such questions will vanish once transcendental wisdom arises. So, what exactly is Shunyata? Shunyata is that things appear to have fixed identities, but in reality, they are empty of permanent essence and exist only in relation to other things. So, what we could see here is that there is one flame lit up, and there's a flame which is lit up, and we could see it exuding brightness, but it cannot it cannot exist on itself. There are certain factors which are into play so that the flame could be seen. It could be the cotton, the wick, the candle. All of them have to work in unison at the same time, at the same place, so that we could have the flame. And the flame does not has its own independent existence as such, and it is a result of many factors which come into play. So shunyata is not just negation or emptiness or void. It's like you are empty from the thing, or you don't have any permanent essence and you only exist in relation to other things. This is what Buddhist philosophers mean by the term shunya. So it is relativity, it is a conditional thing, it is not negation. This view is called the middle Madhyam path because it denies both the absolute reality and the absolute unreality of empirical things and asserting their conditional existence. Shankaracharya, though a critic of Madhyamika, too believed that the absolute is beyond the categories of intellect and the empirical world, which is changeable, is ultimately not real. So Shankaracharya, although was a critic of Madhyamika, too believed that the absolute is beyond the categories of impact, intellect and the empirical world, which is changeable. So the empirical world is changeable, but the absolute is beyond it, and the empirical world is ultimately not real because it keeps on changing. So the absolute is beyond the categories of intellect and the empirical world. So Shankaracharya, though a critic of Madhyamika, too believes that the absolute is beyond the categories of intellect and the empirical world, which is changeable, is ultimately not real. Like the Upanishads, Nagarjuna make uses of Chatushkoti to substantiate the middle path, refraining from absolute affirmation and negation about the reality of empirical things, dharmas. So Nagarjuna has also made his point very clear that he did not uh, had extreme acceptance or extreme absolute affirmation, and neither did he negate the reality of empirical things. So this was in lines with the Chatushkoti of the Upanishads. So there are four different kinds of statements given by him, and these are the things, dharmas, exist, this is affirmation. The things in the world exist conditionally, depending upon a number of multiple number of causes. Second is things, dharmas do not exist, negation. Things in the world can never exist in an unconditional manner. So there has to be some condition associated with it, then only a thing could exist. Things, dharmas exist and non exist, both affirmation and negation. Things in the world exist conditionally and can never exist unconditionally. Fourth, things, dharmas neither exist nor non exist, neither affirmation nor negation. The things in the world can never exist absolutely, nor they can non exist like sky flower or square circle. Like the Vedantins say, Brahman, Brahma is beyond description. Nagarjuna also holds Paramarthik Satya is beyond experience and laws of logic. So, Nagarjuna's view of Paramarthik Satya that this is beyond experience and the laws of logic is in lines with the Vedantist view, whereby they say that Brahma is beyond description. So, in conclusion, we could say that in the conception of twofold truth, in its conception of twofold truth, the twofold truths are first is the conventional truth and the second is the absolute truth. The conventional was the uh, uh, okay, so the conventional was the Samriti Satya, and the ultimate truth was the Paramarth Satya. So, in its conception of twofold truth, the Samriti Satya and the Paramarth Satya, it's denial in the phenomenal world. There is no uh, existence of the world, and it is really there's no inherent existence of the world, and all the things are conditional. It's negative description of the transcendental and its conception of nirvana because nirvana as it was propounded in the theory of Madhyamika was that it could be achieved if one gets to understand the distinction between Swabhav Shunya and Prapancha Shunya. So here we could see that if one those persons who cannot distinguish between the two can never understand the subtle secrets of Buddha's teaching. And Nagarjuna maintains that the latter cannot be attained without realizing the former, and without transcendental truth, nirvana cannot be achieved. So the empirical truth and the transcendental truth both should be known. Then only one could attain nirvana. And this conception of nirvana as the attainment of unity with the transcendental self, the Madhyamika approach is very close to Advaita Vedanta. So Madhyamika kind of establishes a middle ground between uh, uh, the eternalism and the nothingness because it tries to establish um, a middle path which denies both the absolute reality and absolute unreality of empirical things and asserting their conditional existence. So with this, we have come to an end to this video. I'll see you guys in the next one where we discuss about the other schools of Buddhist philosophy. Till then, see ya. Bye.